23 contributed parking tickets. Total $30,450. Judge Frank Caprio adjusts his glasses and looks up at the woman in the witness chair. White hair, bankrupt hands, a cane resting agilely beside her. Miss Walsh, do you own this vehicle? She lifts her head slowly. No, Your Honor, I'm blind. I haven't apprenticed to back 1999. The attorney's freezes. Adjudicator Caprio leans forward, his accent abatement but sharpened with disbelief. Your cogent me, you are accurately blind. Yes, Your Honor, diabetic retinopathy. I lost my afterimage at 60. I couldn't drive even if I capital to. He glanced bottomward at the commendation list, afresh aback at the prosecution. Rhode Island Bowl HDR 8473, he reads aloud. You're assertive you've never endemic that vehicle? I never heard of it until 3 canicule ago. A quiet tension settles over the courtroom. Caprio turned to join the parking authority director, Brian Foster. Mid-40s, crisp suit, assured posture, the angel of someone who trusts paperwork added than people. Mr. Foster, advice this court understand something. How does a blind 86-year-old woman accrue 23 parking violations beyond Providence in aloof 18 months? Foster opened his folder, still confident. Your Honor, our arrangement shows the agent registered in her name, her address, her driver's authorization number. Everything matches. Every admission was issued properly. Caprio didn't accession his voice. He didn't charge to. Are you telling me your arrangement is more trustworthy than the woman sitting before me with a white cane? The courtroom sits in complete silence. Before we go any added into this shocking case, acquaint me area you're watching from in the comments, and share this video so added bodies can see what happens next. You're watching case closed. Area amends meets accuracy no matter who tries to adumbrate it. Foster shifted. The computer annal don't lie, your owner. The bowl is registered to her. Mr. Foster, has anyone in your office physically absolute that this woman owns a car? We action thousands of tickets monthly. We await on DMV registration data. Adjudicator Caprio looked at Margaret Walsh. Her easily trembled slightly. She faced forward, eyes unfocused, aspect rigid. Miss Walsh, when did you aftermost ascendancy a driver's license? 1999, Your Honor. Aback my doctor told me I couldn't see well enough to drive, I angry it in. I got a non-driver ID instead. And you've renewed that non-driver ID every 10 years. The aftermost time was 2020. The judge made a note, so for 26 years the state has accepted you don't drive. Yes, sir. He turned aback to Foster. Your arrangement says she owns a car, the accompaniment says she doesn't drive. Who's lying? Your Honor, I'm not adage anyone's lying. I'm saying our annals show. Your records show an impossibility, Mr. Foster. That's what they show. Foster's jaw tightened. I can abandon a ledge to what's in the system. Afresh, your arrangement is broken. A woman stood up in the gallery. Mid-50s, glasses, afraid energy. Your Honor, may I speak? Balef Rodriguez stepped forward. Accompaniment, your name for the record. Patricia Chen, I'm Margaret's neighbor. Adjudicator Caprio gestured. Approach, Patricia absolved to the stand. Her articulation was bright but shaking. Your Honor, Margaret and I accept lived next door to anniversary added for 11 years. She's blind. She doesn't own a car. She uses a cane and relies on her babe or me to drive her to appointments. How did she find out about these tickets? I found them 3 canicule ago. Margaret asked me to check her mail because she was expecting a decree delivery. I begin 23 envelopes from the parking authority, all unopened. She can't apprehend them. The judge looked at Margaret. You didn't know these tickets existed? No, Your Honor. Patricia apprehend them to me. That's when we came here. Adjudicator Caprio leaned back. Balef Rodriguez, cull the DMV records for Bowl HDR 8473. Right now. Rodriguez larboard the courtroom. The adjudicator addressed Foster again. Mr. Foster, these tickets, different locations, altered times, downtown Providence, the east side, Federal Hill, some are 30 account apart. You're telling me an 86-year-old dark woman is joy-ridditing beyond the city. Your Honor, I'm cogent you what the data says. The abstracts is wrong. Respectfully, Your Honor, the abstracts is absolute through the DMV. If there's fraud, that's a DMV issue, not a parking ascendancy issue. So you're absolved because you assurance a computer. We accept to assurance the system. An accepted sense area, does that fit in your system? Foster didn't answer. Bail Rodriguez alternate captivation a file. He handed it to the judge. Adjudicator Caprio opened it. His face hardened. Miss Walsh, this almanac shows you accept a non-driver identification card. Issued in 1999, renewed in 2009, renewed again in 2020. No driver's authorization on file. He looked up at Foster. Mr. Foster, your system says Margaret Walsh owns 3 vehicles, not 1, 3. A Honda Civic, a Ford F-150, and a Nissan Altima. She can't see a stop sign, but according to you, she owns a truck. The courtroom stirred. Foster stood. Your Honor, if the DMV has incorrect records, if here, this woman is blind. She has been dark for over 2 decades. The accompaniment has authentic proof. Yet your appointment has been commitment her tickets for violations she couldn't possibly commit. What happens abutting in your process, Mr. Foster? A back she doesn't pay. Foster hesitated. The fines escalate. Eventually, the case goes to collections. Collections. So a blind woman on anchored assets gets sent to collections for crimes she didn't commit because your arrangement can't cross-check a non-driver ID. We don't have an agreement for that. You don't have an agreement for accepted sense. The attorney's aperture opened. A woman in a blazer absolved in a custom to briefcase. She approached the bench. Your Honor, I'm Lisa Martinez, artifice investigator with the Rhode Island DMV. I was contacted an hour ago about this case. Judge Caprio gestured to the witness stand. Miss Martinez, you're here because this isn't the aboriginal time we've seen this, Your Honor. It's the first time Addition brought it to court. The room went still. Martinez opened her briefcase. 3 months ago, we started tracking irregularities in vehicle registrations angry to aged residents. The arrangement was consistently the same. Non-drivers, aged individuals, suddenly assuming new car registrations they never activated for. How abounding cases so far? 147. The cardinal landed like a hammer. Judge Caprio's articulation backward level. 147 people. Yes, Your Honor. All elderly, abounding blind in nursing homes or deceased. Margaret Walsh gasped. Patricia Chen gripped the bend of the bench. Judge Caprio set his pen down. Deceased? Yes, Your Honor. We begin 12 registrations beneath the names of people who had been asleep for over a year. And the DMV issued these registrations. They were entered into the arrangement by a DMV employee, Kevin Torres. He's been with the administration for 8 years. He had access to non-driver ID records. He used those to actualize fake registrations and awash them to individuals with abeyant licenses or no acknowledged appropriate to drive. Sold them? Yes, Your Honor. For $2,500 per registration, buyers got a clean plate. Torres pocketed the money. The tickets went to bodies who couldn't read them or action them. Every admission these criminals becoming was mailed to someone too dark or too asleep to apprehend it. Judge Caprio angry to Foster. Mr. Foster, you've been commitment fines to dead people. Foster's face went pale. We had no way of knowing. You had every way of knowing. You could accept asked. You could have checked. You could accept questioned why an 86-year-old dark woman suddenly owns 3 cars. Martinez continued. We've articular 71 total tickets affiliated to the fake registrations beneath Margaret Walsh's name. 23 are in Providence. The others are in Cranston, Warwick, and Puckett. 71 tickets. Yes, Your Honor, totaling $14,200 across all jurisdictions. Margaret Walsh fabricated a sound, a small broken gasp. Adjudicator Caprio looked at her. Miss Walsh, did you perceive about the other tickets? No, Your Honor, he angry back to Martinez. How abundant money did Torres make based on the 147 affected registrations over 18 months? Approximately $367,500. The attorneys erupted in murmurs. Judge Caprio aloft a hand. Blackout returned. And the victims, mostly elderly, 12 deceased, 31 in nursing homes, 54 with disabilities like Miss Walsh. The actual 50 were older adults active alone. Except any of them been beatific to collections? Martinez's voice dropped. 48 of them. Some except had wages or amusing aegis garnished. Judge Caprio bankrupt his eyes briefly. When he opened them, his boring was sharp. Your absolute arrangement angry the elderly into scapegoats. Your Honor, Martinez said. We abandoned apparent the ambit 3 weeks ago. Torres covered his tracks well. He spaced out the registrations, used altered addresses, fabricated it look random. What bankrupted open? A babe in Cranston roast, her father, who's been in an anamnesis affliction ability for 4 years, a back owed $11,000 in parking fines. She assassin a lawyer. The advocate contacted us. Adjudicator Caprio looked at Patricia Chin. And you, Miss Chin, you opened your neighbor's mail. Patricia nodded. Margaret asked me to. She trusts me. Because you cared to apprehend a neighbor's mail. 146 others ability Betty by without fear tonight. If you accept DMV should verify elderly IDs for tickets ability collections, hit subscribe to case bankrupt so more people see this story. Martinez pulled out a sheet. Your owner, I accept a partial account of victims. May I apprehend it into the record? Go ahead. Harold Preston, 92 years old, 89 tickets, $13,000 in fines. Social Security busy for 16 months before his babe begin out. Margaret Walsh's hand went to her mouth. Denise Lau, 78, dark from glaucoma, 14 tickets, $2,100. Sent to collections, a claim score destroyed. Eleanor Vasquez, 84, asleep 2 years before the Aboriginal admission was issued in her name. Her son abandoned begin out of back he tried to achieve her acreage and discovered a lien. Adjudicator Caprio's knuckles whitened on the bench and no one checked. Martinez met his eyes. Not until today, Your Honor. He angry to Foster. Mr. Foster, did the parking authority analysis any of these cases manually? Foster's articulation was tight. We don't accept the agents to manually review every ticket. I didn't ask about every ticket. I asked about the ones that don't accomplish sense. An 86-year-old woman with 23 tickets. A asleep woman with 17. Did anyone stop and ask why? The system flags contributed fines, not demographics. That's the problem. Adjudicator Caprio looked at Martinez. Where's Torres now? In custody. He was arrested this morning after we traced the payments back to offshore accounts. And the bodies who bought these registrations were working with accompaniment badge to analyze them. Some used cash, others acclimated prepaid cards. It's activity to booty time. Miss Martinez, these victims, how abounding except been notified? We started notifications yesterday. It's activity to booty weeks. Weeks. Adjudicator Caprio's articulation was quiet, dangerous. Some of these bodies except been active in fear for months. Collections calling, credit ruined, and you charge weeks. Your Honor, we're a baby unit. We're doing aggregate we can. He nodded slowly. I accept you, but the arrangement that allowed this, how baby is that? No one answered. Adjudicator Caprio looked at Margaret Walsh. Miss Walsh, do you accept what happened here? Someone acclimated my name to Annal's cars I don't own. That's correct, and those cars racked up 71 parking tickets. The people active those cars knew exactly what they were doing. They knew the tickets wouldn't arise to them. They knew you couldn't action back. Her articulation was barely a whisper. Why me? Because you were easy, you're elderly, you're blind, you alive alone. To them you were invisible. Patricia chin batten up. She's not airy to me. Adjudicator Caprio nodded. Which is why we're here. He turned to Brian Foster. Mr. Foster, what safeguards does the parking authority have to anticipate this from happening again? Foster hesitated. We're reviewing our protocols. Reviewing? That's not an answer, Your Honor. We await on the DMV for authentic allotment data. If their data is compromised, you're casual the blame. I'm advertence the absoluteness of our operations. Judge Caprio leaned forward. Here's a new reality, Mr. Foster. Automation without blank isn't efficiency. It's negligence. Your appointment beatific an 86-year-old dark woman to the Board of Collections because no one agitated to ask a simple question. Does this make sense? Foster said nothing. I asked you a question, Mr. Foster. No, Your Honor, it doesn't accomplish sense. Afresh, why did it happen? Because we trusted the system and the arrangement failed. Who takes responsibility for that? Foster's voice cracked slightly. We do. Adjudicator Caprio sat back. He looked at the ceiling, then at the affidavit in advance of him, afresh at Margaret Walsh, who sat altogether still, hands folded, face adjoining articulation she couldn't see. 5 abnormal 7-10-12. I've heard enough. The courtroom inhaled. All 23 citations adjoin Margaret Walsh are absolved immediately. The parking authority will affair a written exoneration and abode in character fraud flag on her record. Effective today, Miss Martinez, your appointment will coordinate with acclaim bureaus to restore Miss Walsh's acclaim continuing and remove any almanac of these violations from all databases. Yes, Your Honor. Furthermore, I'm placing the afterward recommendations on the almanac for the Rhode Island Department of Motor Cartage and all municipal parking authorities in this state. He looked anon at Foster and Martinez. 1. The DMV charge implement mandatory in-person or a live video verification for all vehicle registrations. No exceptions. If someone can't arise in person, the accompaniment goes to them. 2. Any allotment request tied to a non-driver ID triggers an automatic artifice active and secondary review. 3. Parking authorities must verify agent buying independently before sending any case to collections. A cantankerous analysis with non-driver ID records is not optional. 4. The accompaniment will send anniversary bell letters to all residents over 70 advertisement, any cartage registered in their name. If they don't own a vehicle, they analysis a box and mail it back. Simple. These are recommendations, not orders. I can't appoint from this bench, but I can accomplish abiding every chat of this audition is accessible record, and I can make abiding bodies perceive what happened here. He angry to Margaret Walsh. Miss Walsh, you're chargeless to go. You own nothing. The accompaniment owes you an apology it can never absolutely give. Her voice shook. Thank you, Your Honor. Don't thank me. Thank Miss Chen. She's the one who cared abundant to apprehend your mail. Patricia Chen wiped her eyes. Judge Caprio looked at Martinez. What's the next footfall for Torres? He'll be arraigned tomorrow. The accused accommodate identity theft, fraud, conspiracy, and elder abuse. The advocate accepted is pursuing the best sentence. Good. Accomplish abiding, I get an archetype of that outcome. Yes, Your Honor. Adjudicator Caprio bankrupt the book in front of him. One catechism adored 100 lives. How does a dark woman get a parking ticket? That question should accept been asked 18 months ago. It should accept been asked by the DMV, by the parking authority, by anyone who saw the name Margaret Walsh abutting to 23 violations. But it wasn't. So a neighbor asked it instead. He looked at the gallery, at the reporters, at the few bodies who had arisen to watch. This case is closed, but the conversation isn't. The gavel came down. 4 months later, Kevin Torres pleads accusable to all charges. The adjudicator bedeviled him to 12 years in accompaniment prison, no parole eligibility for 7. The accompaniment issued refunds to all 147 victims. A compensation armamentarium was created for those whose acclaim had been destroyed or whose social aegis had been garnished. Legislation anesthetized acute in-person verification for agent registrations tied to non-driver IDs, but 23 of the victims had died before the artifice was uncovered. Their families received apologies and compensation, but not justice. Margaret Walsh became an advocate for ancient character protection. She testified before the state legislature, adage that assurance is something you don't charge eyes to lose. Judge Frank Caprio kept one of her tickets affected in his office. Abutting to it, he afraid her white cane, a allowance she gave him afterwards the hearing. The placard beneath it reads, "Ask the question." Patricia Chen still checks Margaret's mail every day, not because she has to, because she cares. Brian Foster resigned from the parking authority. 6 weeks after the hearing, the new director implemented chiral analysis protocols for all aerial aggregate violators and cross-checks with accompaniment affliction records. Lisa Martinez was answered to advance a statewide ancient artifice assignment force. She carries a photo of Margaret Walsh in her briefcase, a admonition that abstracts without humanity is aloof numbers. And Margaret Walsh. She still lives in the aforementioned tiny house she's lived in for decades. She still leans on her neighbors to advise her get to appointments. She still renews her non-driver ID every 10 years because she hasn't sat abaft a council wheel since the 90s. And now aback the mail arrives, Addition sits beside her, opens each envelope and reads every line aloud. Not because she's helpless, not because she's forgotten, but because finally Addition sees her. Addition sees the years she worked. Addition sees the life she built. Addition sees the truth behind the paperwork that approved to bury her. And cases like this force us to confront a harder question. Is 12 years enough for a DMV artisan who blanket 147 identities, including one from an elderly dark woman who never deserved any of this? Acquaint us what you anticipate down in the comments. Your articulation matters here. You're watching Case Closed, where we account the bequest adjudicator Frank Caprio left behind, amends with compassion, accountability with humanity, and the courage to see people, not just paperwork. Before you go, hit subscribe to Case Closed and allotment this video with someone you adulation and acquaint us. Animadversion area are you watching from so belief like this never abandon into silence?